They warned her never to touch the river at noon. But when she mocked the elders and stepped into the water, something the village had never seen before rose from beneath the waves. What followed divided the whole community. Subscribe now and follow this story to the end. You won't want to miss the river's judgment. Adanne had been away for 5 long years. When she returned from Lagos, she was different. She wore bright city clothes, carried a shiny phone, and spoke English with a swagger. The villagers rushed to greet her, happy to see the daughter of their land come back. But Adanne smiled only lightly. She looked at the huts, the dusty roads, the women pounding yam with sweat dripping down their faces. She shook her head and muttered, "Nothing ever changes here. Still the same old bush life." That evening, she walked with the youth to the sacred river. Children swam, women washed clothes, and men fished with baskets. The river glowed gold under the sun, quiet and peaceful. Elder Mama Nkem pointed and said, "Remember, my daughter, no one must bathe in this river at noon. It is the time the water rests." Adanne laughed, snapping pictures for her Instagram. "Mama, that is superstition. In Lagos, nobody fears such things." The elders sighed, but the young men chuckled nervously. Adanne had brought back city pride, and perhaps city trouble. That night, while others gathered around fires to tell old tales, Adanne sat alone in her father's hut, scrolling through her phone. She was not impressed by their folk tales. These stories are only meant to scare children, she thought. I will show them there is no danger. She did not know that her pride was already planting a seed of trouble that would grow bigger than she could imagine. The next morning, Adanne joined the village women carrying pots of water from the river. They moved in a line, balancing clay pots on their heads. Some hummed soft songs as they walked. Adanne pulled out her phone and recorded them. "Back to the village," she typed. "Still living like it's 1900. She laughed at her own words. The young girls giggled shyly, enjoying her attention, but the older women frowned. Ngozi, one of the most respected wives in the village, stopped her and said, "Child, you should not mock this way of life. These traditions are what keep us safe. The spirits of the river are jealous. They do not forgive insult." Adanne rolled her eyes. "Auntie, do you really believe that? Spirits? Do they also use WhatsApp? Do they also dance on TikTok?" She laughed loudly, holding her phone high. Some women gasped. "You may laugh," Ngozi said, shaking her head. "But remember, no one must ever touch that river at noon. Do not play with fire." Adanne lifted her chin. "So if I swim at noon, will the river spirits drag me away? Let us see then. I will do it. I will show everyone in this village that there is no power in water or spirits." By the time they reached the square, her words had already spread. Children whispered. Men shook their heads. Elders muttered to themselves. Some thought she was only joking. Others felt fear crawling in their hearts. But Adanne's pride only grew. She told herself, "These people are stuck in the past. I will open their eyes. I will be the one to break this useless rule." She smiled to herself, unaware that the very river she mocked was already listening. The following day, the sun was high, and shadows hid under the trees. It was noon. Villagers stayed inside their huts, whispering about Adanne. Some peeped through their windows. They knew she had promised to challenge the river. Adanne walked boldly toward the riverbank, her phone in her hand. She tapped the screen, opened her live stream and said, "Watch me, everyone, the girl who fears no village taboo. Today I will prove there is nothing to fear." She laughed and stepped into the river. The water was cool against her skin. She splashed her face and, waved at her viewers. At first, nothing happened. Some children hiding behind bushes began to giggle. But then, the surface of the river started to ripple strangely. The water around her legs turned milky white. She frowned. "What is this? Soap?" she said. Suddenly, a deep drumming sound came from under the water. Boom, boom, boom. It was slow and heavy, like a heartbeat of the earth. The trees stood still. The birds stopped singing. Even the wind dropped silent. Villagers screamed from the bank. "She has angered the river!" the children cried. The women began to wail, covering their faces with their wrappers. Adanne's smile faded. The water began to rise in a circle around her, swirling like a whirlpool. Her phone slipped from her, hand into the water with a splash. The live stream ended abruptly. She froze, unable to move. The river hissed like a living creature. Her heart beat fast. Fear now replaced her laughter. She finally realized this was no superstition. Something powerful had awakened. The village erupted. Men stormed into the square shouting, "She must be exiled before her curse spreads." Others argued, "No, she is our daughter. We cannot cast her away." That afternoon, signs of disaster spread. The yam leaves in the farms began to curl. Goats bleated, but refused to drink from the river. A calabash of palm wine turned sour in less than an hour. The people shook their heads in fear. All fingers pointed to Adanne. Some women spat on the ground when she passed. Children ran from her. Even her own cousins refused to sit near her. Adanne trembled, ashamed, but still tried to defend herself. "I only wanted to show you that your rules are old and useless," she said. Mama Nkem hit the ground with her walking stick. Her voice shook. "Child, pride is heavier than a stone. You have offended the river, and the river does not forget." That night, whispers filled the village. Some said she should be tied and thrown into the forest. Others said the river might still forgive if she humbled herself. But one thing was clear: something had to be done quickly. That night, the moon sat heavy in the sky, watching over the village. The drums called the elders to the square. Men, women, and children gathered, their faces lit by the fire. The air was thick with fear and anger. The chief, an old man with white hair, raised his hand. "We must talk. The river is angry. Crops are dying. Animals will not drink. Palm wine has turned bitter. What shall we do with this child who mocked the gods?" One elder, his voice strong, shouted, "She has brought a curse upon us. Let us send her away. The river may calm if we cut her off from us." But another elder shook his head. "No, the river could have taken her life, yet it spared her. That is a sign. The spirits do not want her blood. They want her heart to change," the crowd murmured. Some agreed. Some still demanded punishment. Mama Inkem, her face stern, stood up slowly with her walking stick. "Listen, the river has punished us before. I remember when a man washed his bloodied spear at noon. The river rose and carried his hut away. But this girl is different. The river only showed her shame. It waits. It gives her a chance to bow her head." The chief nodded. He lifted his staff. "We cannot shed her blood. We cannot cast her away. But she must humble herself. Tomorrow, at dawn, she will perform the rite of atonement. If she refuses, then she will leave this land forever." The crowd fell silent. The drums beat once, twice, sealing the judgment. Adanne sat in the corner, trembling. She had never felt so small. For the first time since she returned from the city, her pride cracked. At dawn, the cock crowed 3 times. The sky was pale, and the mist sat low on the river. Adanne stood barefoot, dressed in plain cloth. Her shiny city clothes were gone. In her hands, the elders placed a clay basin filled with river water. "You will walk along the bank," the chief said, barefoot and silent. "You must carry this basin on your head and not spill a drop. Behind you, the village will follow, singing the songs of atonement. You must not look back. If you stumble, you must rise. Only then will the river know your heart." Adanne nodded weakly. She lifted the basin onto her head. It was heavier than she expected. Her neck strained, her arms ached, but she did not complain. Step by step, she walked. Her feet pressed against the rough stones and wet earth. Thorns pricked her toes. The sun began to rise, hot on her back. Sweat ran down her face and into her eyes, but she kept walking. Behind her, the women sang softly. Their voices rose and fell like waves. "River, forgive. River, be calm. River, hear our cry." The men clapped gently. Children carried leaves of peace. Everyone followed, watching. The river bubbled, as if watching too. The current swirled slowly, rising and falling like it was breathing. Some villagers whispered, "It accepts. It listens." Adanne's heart pounded. For the first time in years, she felt small, powerless, and human. Halfway through the rite, Adanne's legs began to shake. The basin wobbled on her head. She stumbled and almost fell. The crowd gasped, but she caught herself, holding the basin steady again. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She could not hold the silence any longer. She cried out, "I mocked you all because I was ashamed." The people stopped singing, their eyes fixed on her. Even the river seemed to pause. Adanne's voice cracked. "In Lagos, they laughed at me. They called me a bush girl. They mocked my accent. They mocked my clothes. They mocked my roots. I wanted to prove I was better, richer, wiser. So when I came back, I laughed at you, so you would not laugh at me. But it was pride. It was foolishness. Now see what I have caused." Her tears fell into the dust. The basin on her head shook, but she steadied it. "Forgive me. I mocked my people. I mocked myself. I mocked the river. I did not know that shame and pride are the same rope around the neck." Mama Nkum, leaning on her stick, nodded slowly. "Now you begin to see," the people murmured. Some wiped their eyes. Even those who had cursed her felt pity. For the first time, Adanne's heart spoke truth, not pride. At the end of the path, where the river was deepest, Adanne placed the basin gently on the ground. Her legs trembled, but she knelt. An elder gave her a calabash of palm wine and a plate of cola nuts. She poured the wine into the river. She broke the cola and let the pieces fall into the water. Then, with shaking hands, she pulled out her broken phone, the one that had fallen into the river during her live stream. She raised it high. "This phone is my pride," she whispered. "I used it to mock. I used it to show off. I return it to you, river. Take my pride." She dropped the phone into the current. At once the river roared. Waves rose like angry hands. The people cried out and stepped back. The water surged high, then suddenly calmed. Fish leapt in silver arcs. The water cleared, bright and blue as the sky. The drumming stopped. The birds began to sing again. The chief raised his staff. The river has accepted her apology. The land is safe again. The people cheered, some falling on their knees to thank the river. Adanne bowed low, tears washing her face. For the first time, she felt free. Days passed, and the signs of anger faded. The yam leaves turned green again. The goats drank freely from the river. Palm wine became sweet once more. The people rejoiced, knowing the curse was gone. Adanne did not return to her old ways. She dressed simply. She joined the women in the farms, pounding yam, fetching water, and learning their songs. She no longer carried her phone everywhere. With the money she had saved from Lagos, she called the village youths together. She built a wooden shelter near the river where young girls could bathe privately. "No girl should ever feel shame again," she said. "No one should mock our way of life." The villagers forgave her. Some even admired her courage. They said, "She is no longer just a city girl. She is our daughter again." Children who once ran from her now followed her with laughter. Elders who once cursed her now blessed her name. Adanne had changed, and the village had changed with her. One evening, the moon shone over the village, silver on the roofs and the river. The people gathered around Mama Nkem, who sat on her wooden stool. She raised her hand and spoke. "Children, remember this story. Pride blinds us, but humility heals." Adanne thought she was above us. She thought tradition was foolish, but when she mocked the river, she mocked herself. It was humility, not strength, that saved her life. The river spared her because she confessed a shame. She bowed her head and the water forgave. Learn from her. Respect the ways of your land. Respect the elders. And above all, respect the river. The children nodded, their eyes wide. The women hummed. The men clapped slowly. From that day, whenever someone tried to boast or mock tradition, the people would say, "Remember Adanne. Remember the river of shame." And so her story lived on, told from one generation to another. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe and visit our channel for more powerful folk tales like this one.